Hi everyone, this is Joy with Create It with Joy. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's two cards are made using Spellbinders Small Die of the Month, and this was for June, and I really love this Small Die of the Month. I think you can make some really fantastic cards with it. So I have done all the die cutting off camera because it was a lot of die cutting. So there's 4 die cuts to these images, and they layer on top of each other so you can see every single color from the back to the front. So for this first one, I am using a white cardstock, fog cardstock from Simon Says Stamp, soft navy cardstock, and a gold metallic from Spellbinders. The soft navy is also from Simon Says Stamp. So, excuse me, I am just using Lawn Fawn's glue tube to glue all of these together, layering them. I had about 8 of them, I think, that I was gluing together. So I'm going to do most of it off camera, but you just, like I said, you layer from back to front, and then you get this beautiful layered look with all, I mean, the color combinations are endless of what you can make with this. My son Johnny and I were watching Stranger Things. He had to get caught up on season 2 while I was running all of these through the die cut machine. So it was one of those kind of projects. So you can have like a good movie on or something like that and die cut to your heart's content. So I'm making sure that's all sticking down really good. And then here is the top layer of that soft navy, which I think is one of my most favorite colors of cardstock. Look how pretty that looks. Probably should have held it up closer to the camera, you guys, so you could see it better, but you'll be able to see it on the photos really good. So again, just adding some liquid glue, just a little bit, especially on this top layer, is a lot thinner. So just a little bit of glue and some, you know, definitely the corners, the edges, all of that. And then we will adhere that down. So I decided I want to make 2 cards out of this, being that you're already doing a lot of die cutting. You might as well just go to town and make a bunch of cards. So get that nice and adhered. And now you can see how pretty that is. Make sure everything is straight. Isn't that just, it's so ornate to me. I just love the look of it. Super, super pretty. So now I'm going to do the next set. And this one I started with a dark purple, and I had that in my stash. Then I have a light purple that goes on top of that. Then the metallic gold and peacock cardstock from Simon Says Stamp. So this, for this color combo, I kind of was getting my inspiration from a peacock to begin with, even though it looks quite different, but that was kind of my inspiration for the color combo. And I just love everything gold, so this gold metallic paper just made my heart very, very happy. So again, gluing all of these pieces. Again, there's 4 die cuts, 4 layering die cuts in this small die of the month. And you just, your color combos can be anything. So I really want to make some more cards with this and get some really good color combinations. Just making sure everything is lined up nice and even, wiping off any excess glue because you will have some. It doesn't matter how careful you are with that glue. And any liquid glue would work. And it also gives you a little bit of wiggle room to slide things around and into place. So here is the last piece. Again, this is Simon Says Stamp Peacock Cardstock, and I'm putting it on top. Again, the order was a dark purple, a light purple, the gold, and then the peacock cardstock. And I'm going to glue the rest of these off camera because really you only need to see it one time, because otherwise it would just be boring. So again, making sure that's nice and adhered. And isn't that super, super pretty? That peacock cardstock is so gorgeous. It's super yummy. Okay, so now we're going to move on. And the 2 cards that I'm making, you can see I have all my pieces glued together. I'm going to be using a peacock cardstock, and I'm using Memory Box 8 stitched rectangle die, and this will cut out a little frame out of this peacock cardstock. So I'm going to cut that out. You'll see it in just a second. Here is that little frame. And I'm taking a piece of white Neenah Classic Crest Solar White cardstock, lining that up nice and even, and I'm going to cut that out because we are going to inlay that Peacock cardstock onto our A2 size card base. So we're gonna line up the outside white piece. I'm just gonna lay down a bunch of tape runner so everything can just stick. You could also do this with liquid adhesive, and that would give you a little bit more wiggle room. So I'm lining up that outside piece. Now I'm taking that peacock piece that we cut out, that we die cut, and it's a nice little stitched frame, lining that up. Then I will take that white centerpiece and adhere that back in. So basically we took a chunk of white out and added a chunk of teal. I lined up my ornate pieces in the corners how I wanted them, and then I put a piece of tape on top so I wouldn't have to do it again because I kept bumping pieces left and right and they were sliding all over the place. So I thought, if you just stick some tape on top, then you can put down the whole piece as a unit. Flipped it over, added my liquid glue, and adhered that down. Putting my acrylic block on top so it's nice and heavy, and this glue dries super fast, so you won't be waiting long. So adding more glue, adhering that down, getting that lined up exactly where I wanted it, and putting that aside. I'm going to do the same thing for the next card. I'm going to get everything lined up exactly where it needs to be, and putting some low tack tape on top so you can move it as one whole piece. So I'm going to add some glue onto that and adhere that down. Now I'm going to be using Lawn Fawn's Chili Pepper Cardstock, and I'm using Simon Says Stamp Clear Embossing ink because I'm going to be heat embossing this sentiment with Simon Says Stamp Ultrafine Antique Gold embossing powder. So I prepped it with my anti-static tool so no little gold flecks will be sticking anywhere. Ink that up, pour on my embossing powder, and I really loved that gold on this red cardstock. I think this chili pepper cardstock is really a good red color. Make sure your heat gun is nice and hot. Heat that through, and then I will trim that out. I'm also going to do a second sentiment that says, that one says thank, and then I'm going to use you. This sentiment already says thank you, so I'm going to mask off the word thank because I only want the word you. Repeating everything the same, prepped my paper with an anti-static tool, use clear embossing powder, clear embossing ink, gold embossing powder, and heating that and trimming that out. So I'm going to add some foam tape behind the big word thank, and I'm actually going to double that up because those ornate pieces already have dimension and I want my sentiment strip to be taller than that. So I doubled up my foam tape. I'm going to adhere that down, eyeball it, adhere that down first. It's the width of my A2 size card base, making sure I can adhere that down straight. And I probably should use a ruler more than I don't because I think I adhere things crooked all the time. Now I'm going to line this up, kind of get a visual so I know before I apply my glue. I would not use a tape runner here because you will see the tape through the holes unless you plan on filling those holes with something else. So I would definitely use a liquid adhesive for this application. Getting around all the edges. And then I'm going to line that up. I'm kind of centering that center part with the letter A, making sure everything is nice and level. Using my acrylic block, I removed the tape, and now I'm going to apply the word you, and that is also on foam tape right there in the center. So I think this is a darling thank you card. Using my tweezers to help me get that good and centered. So I am using Nuvo Crystal Drops in Autumn Red and adding a drop at the tip of each one of those points. And I think this card, that's all it needed. I did not want to overdo. And look how beautiful that is. What a fun die. What a great die to have in your stash. Now, I should have stamped my sentiment first. I had a plan to use a sentiment strip, but then once I had these adhered down, I didn't want to do that. So I'm going to be using some gold embossing powder. Again, I prepped it, adding some gold embossing powder. Really make sure your heat tool is hot at this point if you already have your card assembled, because you don't want your card to warp. I'm just using a paintbrush to get some of the little gold pieces that wanted to be left behind. So I'm doing front and back, and it helps your paper not to warp so much. And that sentiment says, "Sweet friend." So for the dimensional drops on this, I am using Liquid Pearls in Blackberry. And I am doing a drop on each tip, and then I'm doing 2 off of each side of that drop. And I loved how this looked. I felt like I needed to see more of that dark purple come through, so these drops help to bring that out in that die cut. So just adding a few of those, bigger drops at the tip and then smaller ones off to the side. And this was a perfect purple to do that. And then these cards really are super simple, a lot of die cutting, but super simple and just absolutely gorgeous. You could make a great just background paper with these die cuts. So that one is done. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed these cards, and I hope that it inspired you. If you guys like what you've seen, please thumbs up, subscribe, please share with your crafty friends. I really appreciate it. And again, I have some affiliate links below. It costs you nothing, but it continues to help me create. Thank you so much, and I'll be back.